Another question that I had for you, Jeshua, you kind of mentioned that it really wasn't your goal to have your name on the law firm letterhead. And that's a little bit counterintuitive to us as lawyers. That's kind of the dream. Every mother's dream of their child going to law school is that they're going to have their child's name on the letterhead and on the sign out front at the big intersection, that kind of thing. Um, but it kind of makes me think of, you know, if you're less personality driven in the law firm, and I guess it's more operational in nature, maybe that helps to scale the law firm, and maybe people aren't relying on the big law firm partner to handle their matter, and they're more willing to spread the wealth, if you will.
I think that's interesting. I go back to my story and just think, yeah, what got me to law school was probably different than what I heard a lot of my classmates or anyone. You ask any lawyer, what got them to law school. I mean, you probably heard uh, classmates or colleagues say, "Yeah, I went to law school because someone said I was good at arguing," or something like. There's always a story originating from that, but. Um, the my path to law school was primarily thinking that I didn't know what I was going to do, but maybe it was working for international justice mission, doing some justice work at an international level, or um, gosh, the private practice of law just wasn't on my radar. So maybe I'm a little quirky in that way, but the whole letter, I don't know. So I know, Thomas, I did not answer your question one bit, but
No, but it's such a good observation to say, again, as you come into building that practice or thinking about starting your own practice, you have to bring your uniqueness to that. And so if that's the driving force at the end of the day, great. And you leverage that to reflect the missional component or the purpose-driven component of the firm. And I think that's one thing you said well was, look, I want this name to mean something. It needs to articulate what we're all about. And my father in law was a solo practitioner for the latter part of his career, and he used the image of a lighthouse and a cross on his letterhead because he could. And that allowed him to communicate and have conversations with people that he may not otherwise have had if he just had his name on the letterhead. And so that symbolism, that imagery, those things are so important to reflect who you are and what you're about. And then you got to sort of live up to that, right? You got to deliver, and that's not always easy.
the other side of that coin, absolutely. Yeah, in part of the journey in the decision to start Lightstone, it was, the my partners at David and Wieringa and Lauka, we shared the same values, shared the same faith, good people, good culture, and as you know, we in any organization, the culture, it's the people, it's the leaders. It was felt, I think, it was known by our team members, but it was important to me to have what was covert to become overt, to become expressly stated somewhere for others to see that was distinct, that I could stand on, and then the accountability aspect of it. Absolutely, you have to back it up because the world is now watching.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's kind of a
Yeah.
scary thing, right? Because when you take a stand, there's going to be a challenge that comes. There's going to be a failure to overcome. There's going to be a something you're going to have to work through with someone else. And you see that in life in general. I mean, we're all parents, and I'm sure all of us have been perfect with all of our kids and never had to apologize to our spouse or anything. So, but it's that reality of, look, this is a higher calling. There's something important about what we're doing, and when we fail to live up to that standard, we have to own it and come back and take that responsibility.
Absolutely, yeah. That authenticity, that's a part of it, is recognizing and owning up that I don't always get it right. I mess up.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All
So
this discussion about whose name is on the letterhead and everything, I just have to point out I'm the only attorney of the three of us that actually has his name on his law firm letterhead. So
Well,
for
Thomas,
whatever that's worth.
I'm sure that's because there's a lot of goodwill attached to your name. I'm sure that's why. You know, it
Yeah,
makes. I
yeah.
completely get that.